Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
Hey, Nice Guy community. So we're doing things a little differently with this episode of the Nice Guys on Business podcast. I was just a guest on the Money Master podcast and had a chance to talk to the host of that show, Tyler Osborne. And it was such a great, fun conversation, not only about TurnKey that we had a chance to talk about, but also my journey through the beginning part of us starting the podcast, me writing a book, Tyler's philosophy on business and on life. And Tyler is an ultra successful guy in the financial world, and I think that you'll really get a lot of great wisdom from Tyler as he talks and shares his podcast episode with me sitting in the guest seat. So this is going to be with Tyler's permission, of course. I asked him if I could share the recording that we did on his podcast on the Nice Guys on Business, and he said yes. So we're going to have him as a guest shortly. He is working on filling out the application to get on the show. And as soon as that is complete, we'll have him scheduled and ready to roll. But I didn't want to hold back this great content. The episode appeared on his podcast, the Money Master podcast, recently. And I wanted to make sure that we also share it here on the Nice Guys on Business podcast. So check out this episode of the Money Master podcast here on the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day you might be listening or watching. Right now, you're rocking with the neighborhood hope dealer, your community coach, your tenacious teacher out here in Texas, your international intellectual, aka your coach, your host, the Money Master, Tyler Osborne, and let's go! And today I'm fired up for our episode because today's guest is someone who has helped thousands of entrepreneurs turn their voice into influence, their conversations into relationships, and their podcasts into real business growth. Doug Sandler is the CEO of TurnKey Podcast Productions, a company dedicated to helping leaders, experts, and entrepreneurs launch and grow podcasts that actually drive results. Doug isn't just teaching podcasts. He's been doing it for years as the host of multiple top-ranked shows, including the Nice Guys on Business podcast, where he's interviewed hundreds of entrepreneurs and thought leaders. He's also the author of Nice Guys Finish First, and has built a reputation around something that a lot of people underestimate in business today, relationships. Doug believes podcasting isn't just about downloads, it's about building meaningful connections and that leads to opportunity, influence, and revenue. If you've ever thought about starting a podcast, growing your authority, or turning conversation to clients, today's conversation is going to help you and be packed with insight. Doug, welcome to the Money Master podcast. How you doing, brother?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. Money Master, Mr. International Intellectual. I love that one. That's my favorite way you introduce yourself. That is so true and so cool. I had a chance to check out a bunch of your episodes before we hopped on this one today, and really enjoying your show. You got a new fan, a new subscriber, and definitely somebody that's going to be following the lessons learned along the way. Thanks for having me.
Man, I appreciate that. And we kind of talked about that before because I've been doing this podcast stuff. I'm going on a year. So I came across my year. March 30th was my year anniversary of doing a podcast.
Congrats,
and I didn't thank you. I appreciate it. And I didn't find out until I want to say my last episode, which is like a few days ago. I was talking to someone else who had a podcast as well. And basically was telling me, he's like, yeah, what episode are you on? I was like, yeah, this is going to be episode 69. And he was like, okay, cool. Well, you're already winning. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, man, most people quit after the 13th episode. They quit after the 13th episode? Like what? I didn't even know that, dude.
I don't get it either. There's two times when people tend to look at at hesitating in the podcast journey. One of them is after episode 12. So your guy is right on the money. Episode 13. There's actually a term for it. It's called pod fade. That is number one. The second time that people start to slow down their role in podcasting is about where you are around episode 52, 1 year into it, if they do a weekly podcast, because they're looking at their podcast and they're not seeing the results that they want. Now, results don't equate necessarily to money. It could be community growth. It could be influence building. It could be money. It could be business development. It could be lead generation. It could be creating a community of legions of fans. It could be any number of those things. But oftentimes they will slow down at that year because they haven't set goals for what, when you don't have any goals, you're shooting at nothing basically. And you say, hey, what the hell am I doing this for? So congratulations to you. I feel so honored to be able to be on the show and also share, 11 years worth of podcasting experience and 1,700 episodes of our own show, The Nice Guys on Business. It's wonderful to be able to talk to someone newer in the space, so I can see exactly what this world of podcasting is becoming, and you're definitely a shining example of what it could be for many people.
Man, thank you. I appreciate that, and I'm fired up to have you on here. I've always want to learn from people who've already done something before, so I don't have to make the same mistakes. Right?
Amen to that, brother.
So I appreciate you hopping on and wanting to share your wisdom. So you got into the podcast space, like as you mentioned, you said 11 years ago. Is that correct?
Yeah, 2015 we started our podcast. It'll be 12 years soon, and it was February of 2015 that I started my podcast.
What made you decide to jump into podcasting?
Career transition, 30 years as a bar mitzvah MC or bar mitzvah DJ, 2,100 bar mitzvahs as that guy on the dance floor. And somewhere around 50 years old, I said, I don't know that I can be out there on the dance floor doing the cha-cha slide and the booty call, for the rest of my life into my 60s. So I said, let's just take the lessons that I've learned in business, growing a business. We had a company that we were doing anywhere from 800 to 900 gigs. The agency that I owned was doing a bunch of jobs every year. And I said, let me take the lessons that I've learned in that and write a book. So I wrote a book called Nice Guys Finish First. I needed a promotional resource. I didn't have the deep pockets to hire a publicist or an agent. So I said to my friend, who was also represented by the same agent I said, let's start a podcast based upon the lessons that I've learned in the along the way. Let's call it something like Nice Guys. So we called it the Nice Guys on Business podcast. And that was the beginning of this journey that has taken me through so many different opportunities and given me so many wonderful people that I've grown relationships with over the years. So that's kind of in a short, long story. That is the beginnings of the Nice Guys on Business.
Okay, let's talk about a little bit about the book. So what are some of the key factors in the book that you want people to take away from it? I don't know how. So if you wrote the book, you got into podcasting 11 years ago.
The book came out a month after the podcast started.
Okay, I'm about to say it's probably been a while since the book's been out.
Yeah, the book came out. The book came out in March of that same year. We were going to launch the podcast around the same time, and the timing didn't work out exactly because publishing schedules are not exactly what they as tight as they could be. So yeah, the podcast was directly linked to that. The philosophies in the book were pretty simple. Tell the truth, return your phone calls, and be a nice guy. Be kind to others in business. Those three were the leading pillars of anything that I've ever done. And how many times do you get on a call with somebody that's in customer support or customer service, and one of their answers is, I'm sorry, that's our policy. We can't do that. And it's our policy is never a good way to treat a customer. Obviously, misleading someone in a sales process is never a good way to gain a sale, because it's only going to become a transaction. It's not going to be the relationship. And really understanding what your clients want, not just as a business, but as a person, how to have that human connection with the people that you're dealing with, oftentimes will help them oversee things like, hey, you're not priced exactly as low as the competition. Well, there's got to be a reason for that. There's a bunch of things that relationship building can really be a key to successful business if you just treat your business like, look, these people are family. I don't want to screw over my family. Let's treat them like a human being. So that's the basic cornerstone of any thriving business, and the book as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And that's kind of been a business philosophy as mine as well. Like, I don't want to do anything for anybody financially that I wouldn't do for my own grandmother. So, but then I come across people that are in my industry that, I know from a long distance. Like, I don't know them, but I know people know them. Like, yeah, they probably don't love their grandma the way they did that client.
Yeah, I wrote in the book on chapter one. I have a quote by Gary Shandling, and it's very similar to that grandmother thing that you just said. How much do they love your grandmother? And the quote is, "If you don't think nice guys finish first, you don't know where the finish line is." And so
Mm,
for me, the finish line isn't always cashing a check or going to the bank. It's always, how can I lead with value? I find that if I lead with value, oftentimes the money will come. And if it doesn't come, totally fine. I led from my heart. I walked the walk that I've been talking about the entire time. And so I really feel like if you lead with value, the money will come.
absolutely, absolutely. It's we say in my industry that I work in finances, we believe in it's the mission before the commission.
Oh, I
So
love
man,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So
So
right. So right. Right on the money.
so I definitely agree with what you're talking about there. So what made you realize podcasting could be one of the most powerful business development tools for you?
Well, I think that 11 years ago when we started the podcast, as it is today still, podcasting is the wild, wild west. You can do anything or be anything that you want on your podcast. Of course, we always encourage people to be their genuine selves, but I
Yeah.
also encourage people to speak your words. Don't speak the words that you think that your audience wants to hear. Relationships are built with your audience, with guests, with hosts in this particular case. You have so many opportunities in podcasting to build the relationship. I was just using it initially as a promotional resource, thinking that it would be a great way to promote my book and maybe get some consulting gigs out of it. But really, it was just a promotional resource for the book. What I've realized is that I've gained knowledge and learned lessons along the way because I've had some A-listers, Ariana Huffington, Gary Vaynerchuk, John C. Maxwell, Jeffrey Gitomer, some huge heavy hitters, A-listers on my Grant Cardone. A-listers have sat in my guest seat. Otherwise, they would charge $50 to $100,000 to share coaching with someone. I get free because I have them sit in my guest seat, and I get to ask them the questions that I would want to know the answers to. So I didn't realize that getting into podcasting, but that's what it has become, and that has been the true value for podcasting for me.
Man, it's a secret way to pick the brains of people that you always want to pick the brains of anyway.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, agreed, agreed.
And John Maxwell was actually one of my heroes. I love leadership. I got the chance to meet him for like 5 minutes. He came to a conference at my church a few years back and took a picture with him. And obviously, he's not gonna remember who the heck I am yet right now. But one day I'd love to have him on the podcast as well. And matter of fact, one of his books, I have two of his
Nice,
books literally right there
nice.
on leadership. Which is pretty cool. So that's cool that you got to interview him. What's one of the biggest lessons you learned from John?
Well, actually, John's been on the show 3 times now because his now I'm in good with his agency. The people that represent him. I think that John really promotes, as I have tried to lead my life this way, is that the relationship is the cornerstone to all leadership. The relationship that you have with your team and your staff and your front line is essential. Without the relationship, it's very hard to lead people anywhere unless you're doing what you're telling people to do. They're not going to listen to you. They might listen to you, but they're not going to listen to you with authenticity. So for me, leadership as a part of, or relationships as a part of a leadership example is a shining star that John, I think lives his life by.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that because you can't lead people without relationship. It's tough for sure. So you often talk about turning relationships into business through podcasting. What does that actually look like in practice for like an entrepreneur?
So entrepreneurs are fairly unique in that our passion is attached to the business that we want to run oftentimes. So if you're passionate about plumbing, or if you're passionate about classic cars, I have 4 classic cars and I love these cars and I'm passionate about them so much so that before just met with you, I went to the gym and then I came home and I was doing some brake work on the 73 F350 pickup truck that I have on my driveway right now. And so entrepreneurs, all we're trying to do is share our passion with an audience. The beauty of podcasting for entrepreneurs is that when you're passionate about something, you want to talk about it over and over again. You want to meet with other people that want to talk about it too. As you are in the world of finance, you probably you probably just enjoy having a conversation. Like imagine having 3 or 4 people over at your house and you guys just sitting around for an hour or two and just talking about the financial issues that people are having today and the solutions that you guys have. And everybody doesn't have the same means to solution, but maybe your solution is slightly different than someone else. So the conversation is just something that you probably enjoy having. When I have people sitting in my podcast guest seat and we're talking about the entrepreneurial journey or we're talking about anything related to business, I love to understand how systems are put together. I love to understand how the dollars are put together. Where do you find people that are clients? How do you market properly? How do you build a great system? How do you automate a system? How is AI changing the face of our entire business in podcasting? I mean, all of those things, I love talking about that stuff. So for an entrepreneur, it gives you an outlet. And when you have an outlet, you build relationships with the people that you come in contact with, whether it's a guest sitting in your guest seat, an audience member that is listening to your show, sometimes for years, and have finally reached out and started talking to you. Maybe someone that wants to be a sponsor, you have a conversation with. There are so many avenues that you can make money podcasting, but that you can also build relationships with. So for me, it's the entrepreneur's dream is to be able to speak the speak and have other people that enjoy the conversation join in with you as well.
As I've been doing this now for about a year, I'm starting to love more of me having these conversations than me doing the actual work of the actual financial part.
Right,
Like
exactly.
it's so cool to like I said earlier, be able to pick the brains of people. And similar to yourself, I love, sitting down with other entrepreneurs, just kind of understand what it takes to start a business, what it takes to run a business, what it takes to stay in business as well.
Right.
Because just some people get in doesn't mean they stay in. So you're right, man. It really does give you an outlet for you to go ahead and express more and talk more about what you love to do, which is pretty cool.
100%. And what's even cooler than that is, yes, it's great to be able to have that conversation and build those relationships. But imagine, you're about a year into podcasting, and typically in a year-long journey of a podcaster that hasn't put tons of money into marketing or promotion or anything like that, typically the average podcast is getting anywhere between 50 to 300 people listen per episode. And now somebody in your audience might say, well, that's not a lot of people. Well, think about this. Think about putting 200 people in your conference room once a week, every week for the last year. Now you're putting faces with it. These are people that are queuing up to want to hear you. You're building a relationship with your audience. At the same time, why not have a strategy for outgoing marketing for your guest seat? Now you're inviting people that share a common passion for finance with you. You're sitting them in your guest seat. You're building a relationship with them. They can become referral sources of business to you if you play your cards right. The other thing that you could do, which most people are not even thinking about when they get into podcasting, is if you're about a year into podcasting, 50 some odd episodes, and this is not at all to discourage anyone from podcasting that's out there, because most people just don't have the formula. If you're not making $100,000 to $300,000 from your podcast when you're a year into it, then it's not that you don't know how to make the money. You just haven't put the strategy into play to make it work, which is where I come in. Podcast production is a dime a dozen. You can get an editor for $25 an episode. Well, why is it that I would charge $400 an episode if somebody could pay $25? Because it's not just about producing, editing, and distributing a show. It's about how do I take this show and how do I help our entrepreneurs and our business leaders that are hosting, how do I help them make 6 figures, 7 figures with their podcast? When I can turn somebody on to an ATM, a free ATM, you go to the ATM and you pull out $5,000 every time you have an interview. If I can teach my hosts how to do that, they'll never leave me because they won't care how much money I charge.
I mean, yeah, that'd be dumb for them. If you're charging 400, they're taking 5,000. Like there's the math.
Exactly. The challenge is that people think that podcasting is like old school radio days. I'm sharing my message. An audience member is going to either buy something that my advertiser is going to sell, or if I don't have any advertisers, if I'm my own advertiser, if I'm promoting podcast production on my show, somebody's going to jump into my podcast production services from my audience. Well, why don't we shortcut that? Why don't we come up with a pre-qualification so people that are in our audience, yes, they can still have the opportunity to buy what we're selling, but why not do it so that we're pre-qualifying opportunities for people to sit in our guest seat? Not only do they have a great message to sell, to share, but they also have a need for what you are doing, and or they are become a referral source of what you're doing. So for us, the guest to gold strategy is one that is absolutely worth 6 figures or more. The audience, yes, but the audience growth and audience profit is a long-term it's a long-term goal from podcasting, but it's very hard to do that within a couple of years of podcasting. So while you're doing that, can we make you six figures or more? And so most podcasters are like, hell yeah, I want to do that. So that's kind of where we come into the game.
Talk to me a little bit more about that. Guest to gold. Go into detail about that.
So there are many opportunities to make money podcasting. One is obviously having a sponsor or advertiser. That's the Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss method, Tony Robbins method of advertising. They've already of monetization. They've already brought to the podcasting stage millions of people from either their UFC career or their leadership programs or whatever it is that they do, 4-hour work week, whatever Tim Ferriss is working on. So they already have millions of people. Most people, I'll put myself in this category. I don't know where you were when you entered this podcasting game, but most people, normal people like me, have no connections. I basically started brand new with this career. I'm like, I don't know who's going to buy. So we went from having 50 people to 200 to 300 to 500 people listening to our show. And I talked to my partner Strick, and I'm like, this is great. We have all these people. What do we do with them now? And so we started to try to pitch our audience, but our audience wasn't moving. I went to a conference one time, and it was a conference for entrepreneurs. And I discovered at that conference, I'm like, hey, there are 150 people at this conference, 150 people that potentially would want to start a podcast like me. So why don't I talk to each one of them, pre-qualifying them to see if they'd be open to being a guest sitting in my guest seat, but also talking about creative ways to market their services, business development, lead generation, the things that podcasting should be able to do for the average person. I was very surprised. It took me 2 years and 500 listeners to make exactly $0. However, when I went to this entrepreneur conference and I pre-qualified the people to sit in the guest seat, 40 of the 150 became guests that sat in the guest seat, 7 of which became clients of mine at $5,000 a piece. So 2 years to make $0, 30 days to make $35,000. And all I needed to do was understand my gold was not in the audience. My gold was in the guest seat. Now, if you can build a guest seat of golden opportunity and not sacrifice the quality of the content that you create, your audience doesn't care any differently. The challenge with most podcasters is that they're so wanting to put content before their business that they forget, I've been doing this now a year, 2 years, 3 years, let's say. I haven't made any money, but I'm creating great content. Well, at some point, you're a ticking time bomb waiting to stop podcasting, because if you're spending X amount of dollars on production and X amount of time building your show and creating the content, finding guests and all that, but you're not converting that to money, to dollars, a lot of people will just say, why am I doing this anymore?
Yes.
So as a strategist, we come in and we just say, all right, let's take a look at what you're doing. You're doing 99% of it right, but let's go to that 100 percentile. Let's put that last key ingredient in, which is understanding where the value is for you as a business owner from your podcast, rather than just providing content. Let's provide content and let's make money. So that's what we go to work for all of our clients, to teach them how to do that.
I like that for sure. Now, what would you say is the biggest mistake people make when they launch their podcast?
They focus on downloads. They focus just on how many listeners do I have. And I challenge everybody that's listening to this show that has ever considered starting a podcast thinking that downloads were the only metric for success. Try taking a download to Wells Fargo and cashing it. They will not pay you a cent. However, if I have a check because somebody became a client, and I can take that to Wells Fargo and cash it, there is no disputing. I'd rather have 50 people listening to my podcast than 50 and taking action than 50,000 people doing jack shit. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that, but
You're an
so,
adult. You can say what you want to say.
so for me, it's not about the downloads. We have plenty of people that are on our client list that have 200 people listening to their show, but are making tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, because I've taught them how to translate or convert that into money that their business can cash. Now, if you're a plumber and you have a podcast about baking, it's not connected. But if you're a plumber and you have a plumbing podcast and you're passionate about plumbing, I can teach you how to make a lot of money from your podcast about plumbing. But I can't teach you how to make money from baking if you're a plumber and sharing plumber content.
Makes sense. Okay, so because a lot of people do think like, hey, I have these many downloads or I got these many followers on Instagram, whatever it may be, that should automatically result to dollars. But from what you're telling me is no, it doesn't necessarily result to dollars. So it sounds like what's more important is connection. Is that what you're saying?
100%. The connection is where your golden opportunity is. The first two things I teach my clients are, one, don't focus on the downloads. Don't even look at your metrics. I don't even want you looking at if you have Libsyn or if you have Podbean or Spreaker or one of the different hosting platforms, Captivate, anything that's out there, and they have amazing analytics. Wonderful. Don't look at them for the first year. It's not going to matter. No matter what that number is, it's never going to be enough for you because you're comparing yourself to somebody like Joe Rogan who gets 10 million downloads an episode.
This is true.
So you're just looking and saying, I'll never be like Joe Rogan. I'll never be like Joe Rogan. And I keep saying to you, I don't want you to be like Joe Rogan. You did not come into podcasting with an audience already or a community built. You're coming into podcasting basically as a normal person with nothing. Let's work from that. Let's build on your strengths. You have this business. You've been running how long have you been in the financial world?
I've been in 15 years.
Okay. And you've had your podcast for one. Where do you
Correct.
think you excel more, at podcasting or at finance?
Finance, for sure.
Finance. Okay, great. So let's combine the two things. Let's use your podcasting to grease the skids of your financial business so that we can turn more of your world into dollars. How great would it be that if every time you opened up your microphone, I don't know what the average lifetime value of a client is for you, but how cool would it be to know that for sure, every time you open up your microphone, you have an opportunity to make lifetime value of a client, fill in here. For us, a lifetime value of a client is about $25,000. How cool is it to be able to open up my microphone 4 times a month, which is how often I do interviews, and say without a shadow of a doubt, I know that this month I'm going to be making 50 grand because I know that I have a 50% conversion rate of my guests into clients based upon me pre-qualifying them. It doesn't mean let anybody into your guest seat. It means pre-qualify your people like you're pre-qualifying a client. Put the right people into the guest seat that have an opportunity to share some buying signals with you so that you can share some of your wisdom with them. And oftentimes it's soft selling too, because you don't even have to sell. All you have to do is have a conversation with them. And at the end, after you've asked them all this question, saying, hey, that stuff that you mentioned during the podcast, is that real world issues that you're having right now? Cool. I don't know if you know, but that's actually what I fix for a living. Would you be open to me sharing how to do that? Sure, I'd be open to that. Great. Get out your calendar. And now you're scheduling a pre-qualified call with somebody that's already built a relationship with you for 30 to 60 minutes because they've been in your podcast guest seat. You don't have to sell them. There's no salesperson prospect dance. There's just, let me provide value by telling you what I do and how I do it based upon the problems that I know that you have from the conversations that we had in the podcast. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how would you pre-qualify a person?
Well, it's the same way you pre-qualify somebody before they're sitting in your potential client seat, not your guest seat. So what are the things that you need to hear as buying signals so that you know if somebody is open to buying what you have? Do they say things like, I don't know how I'm ever going to afford retirement. I don't know. I don't have any type of insurance product. I don't believe in insurance products. All of the things that the people in your world may hear, I don't know what those things are, and I was just guessing at those first two. But sure. It's like, geez, my kids, I'll never be able to leave my kids any money. What a legacy? I have no legacy that I'm going to leave financially. There's nothing that I have. When you hear things like that, you know that they could use what you have, but they don't realize it yet. So your job during that conversation is just to elicit some of that. I want to be able to show you a way how insurance products could really help you financially in the future. Would you be open to hearing a couple of stories about that? We'll share them on the podcast. Sure, I'd be open to hearing that. You share the story on the podcast. Now, they don't feel like they're being sold, so their guard isn't up. Actually, what you're doing is you're just having a conversation with them, and you're discovering some things that they need that you have that they didn't think that they were going to want to begin with, and they never knew that they were going to be hearing that when they're sitting in the guest seat. So I love the opportunity to share with entrepreneurs when they sit in my guest seat their story, their journey, their successes, their wins, their victories. But I need to ask, because there has to be some relatability to my audience, I need to ask, hey, when it comes to marketing your business, what's some of the stuff that you're challenged with? Oh, I don't know. I've hired 5 marketing companies, spent $50,000 to $100,000 in marketing fees, and gotten nothing from it. Oh, okay, cool. Well, so just the fact that I know that they've spent 50 to 100 grand means that they're not opposed to opening up their wallet to spending money. They just haven't found the right thing yet. And if by the end of the interview, I'm able to understand, get 3 or 4 of those little buy-ins to what I'm doing, to what I like, the behind the scenes stuff going on in my brain. Okay, he's open to spending money on marketing. Okay, he's got the gift of gab. He's sitting here as a podcast guest. Just the fact that he's a podcast guest, I already know that he believes in podcasting, or why the hell else would he be sitting in my guest seat? So those 3 things alone, I'm able to say at the end of the interview, hey, the stuff that we talked about today, look, I know you had a challenge with marketing before, as I have as well, spending X amount of dollars over the years. Would you be open to maybe another way of doing it? I mean, would you be cool if I shared with you how podcasting could potentially do that? It's very rare that somebody would say, no, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to talk to you about it. They're always open to the conversation. And so for me, it really is just more about finding the right people through asking the right pre-qualifying questions through an application. Okay. Because now at this point in our career, we're 11 years in, we probably get 75 to 80 applications every week to sit in our guest seat. I can be a lot more selective now. I can ask some very pointed questions like, have you ever considered podcasting as a way to market your, in my pre-qualifying question, list in order of priority. I like being a host. I like being a guest. I like podcasting. I listen to 5, I can ask some pretty pointed questions now, because it's like, I don't care if 99% of the people don't even finish the pre-qualification application, because I have 75 of which are going to finish the application. So now I have my choice. How cool would it be, Tyler, if you could have somebody that is sitting in your guest seat that raised their hand and said, I would like to be a future client. I just don't know how it works. Can you tell me more about it? So now you're pre-qualifying people to get on your client list. And that's ultimately what we're all looking for. Easy business.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
No more cold calls. No, you're prospecting for guests. You're not prospecting for clients. And what you're finding is that the people that pre-qualify based upon your application, they're pre-qualifying themselves as guests and your client at the same time. And all we're doing is opening up the door for opportunity. So that's why I call it guest to gold, because the guest becomes gold. They either become a client or a referral source, period, the end.
Which is a win-win.
Yeah, you're sharing their message with your audience. Even if it's your audience is a couple hundred people, you're sharing your message with a couple hundred people that aren't hearing their message already. So number one, they're winning there. You're winning because you're sharing great content with your audience that is listening to that. So you're winning now again. The third thing that's the third win in this is you're potentially going to get a client out of it. And how much more enthusiastic do you think you'd be? Now, I know you're a year in and you're enthusiastic about your interviews, but imagine being 5 years in and not making any money from this. At some point, you're going to say, I've been doing this for 5 years now, and I don't know how to make the money from it. I thought it was from advertising and sponsorship. I thought it was through selling services to my audience. I thought it was from sponsor, all the things. And when that doesn't come to fruition, it's like, where the hell's the money? Well, the money is made from the guest seat, from normal people like you and me. And I don't mean to say sell your guest seat for X amount of dollars so somebody has access to it. I mean, pre-qualify, put them through a process. We have a system in place. You pre-qualify, you interview, you follow up. It's a 3-step process. It's pretty simple, and it's pretty bulletproof too if you follow the system. So that's why we say, look, podcasting is not what people think that it is for normal people like you and me.
Okay. I like that for sure, man. That made a lot of sense. What I love about it is the structure. I think as an entrepreneur, like you mentioned earlier, we like systems, we like structure, we like to understand what's going on. So love that for sure. So question, you sat down with hundreds of entrepreneurs. What would you say is a mistake that entrepreneurs make when it comes to their finances?
They don't pay attention to it. They put everything on a credit card because they know that something is going to happen good down the road. And I would say that most people would prefer to hire immediately than understand the task themselves first. Now, I'm not saying I am a scalable, this is a scalable way to start and run a business. The challenge is that a lot of entrepreneurs, founders, let's call them, feel like I'm the founder, I have the wisdom, I'm just going to hire the staff around me and put it together. Okay. The challenge with that is until you know how to do it on your own, you don't know where the shortfalls of every system are. So when Strickland and I started the business, I was the relationship and the sales guy, and he was the editor. He did the cover art. He did the posting of the episodes. He did the social media posts, and we would say yes to everything for everyone. So anybody that had a checkbook was a client of ours. Now that wasn't good because we had a lot of clients in the beginning that churned through our process, and after 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months, they said, "Hey, that's it. We're not doing this anymore. This podcasting thing, I don't think it's for us." But we learned exactly how to sell, how to build the relationship, how to support, how to build the system ourselves, right? How to do payroll, how to do taxes, all of the stuff. And then we started to, okay, we got this editing thing down. I've got a system in place. Let's document, let's share it with somebody else. So now we have 15 editors that do all the stuff for us. And now we have 3 social media people that work social media. And now we have 2 video editors that do their thing. Now we have a VA that handles scheduling and all the automation stuff. We have somebody that handles just scheduling. We have a customer support team of 4 people. So it's like all of this stuff happened, but unless we were doing it ourselves, we probably would have missed a lot of opportunity to grow it the right way. We would have put too many things in place and did it wrong because we didn't know how to actually make it go.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You did the dirty is what I call it.
Yeah, it's the stuff that nobody wants to do because as a podcaster, maybe your passion is sharing your message, and that's great. And your passion is not in editing. Editing is like a drone. It's like, oh, editing another episode. Great. Well, do it for a very short period of time so you realize how much pain it is to do the editing, so that when you do have somebody on to come on board and edit for you as a team member, you'll at least know where their pain is. And you'll at least know why when they say, hey, I need 4 hours to get this done. 4 hours, just slap an open and a close onto that and get it out to the world. Like,
I thought it was like that too.
It's no editing filters. What do you mean? You got to, yeah, okay. Because, Zoom is really good at capturing the audio, but maybe the audio needs to be leveled. Maybe there's some mistakes in there. Maybe there's some internet dropout when it comes down to the final recording. Maybe there's B-roll that we want to have in there. Maybe we want to put a highlight at the beginning of the episode. Maybe we want to have music. There's certain things that you may want to do. And so without you having done it first, you don't realize the pain that is involved with putting this together.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's funny you said that because I don't do any of the editing, but I'm always like the closest person to my team is the editor.
Right.
Just because,
right.
She's editing stuff and she gives me feedback. I give her feedback. I want this, you want that. But I always thought like, okay, just slap the beginning in. Like, no, they got to go through and listen to everything and diagnose it. And it's a tough task. So I give them kudos.
Yeah, when we have many clients and some of them are, they even do we have a medical podcast. And I love our medical podcast. They're very, very highly ranked in their space, but it's a very specific subspecialty. And sometimes their episodes are in foreign language. So how do we know as an English speaking editing team, how do we know when a mistake is made? So we ask them questions like, hey, is there any point in here that we need to edit out for you? Or we will just so they timestamp things for us. They help us get it straight. We do have somebody that understands, the languages that they speak every now and again, but it's hard when you're doing stuff like that. So just be patient with the people that work with you. If you don't know the job, it's very hard to be patient because you just want it the way you want it.
Yeah, that's true. You have a vision. You just want them to see it your way.
Right. Right.
It's not exactly like that. And not everything's, cookie cutter exactly always how we want it. So
now maybe that might not be, if you have somebody that's a true founder in your audience that's listening to this and they're like, that's not the way it's done. You just hire. I'm like, okay, that's just not how I've done it. I've bootstrapped every business that I've ever had since 1982 when I got out of high school. So for me, it's like I've never had an investor. I've never been in debt with my businesses. I've always made a profit. It may have taken a longer time to make a profit than others, but I've always made a profit from my businesses. And I tell everybody, look, this is what has worked for me. It doesn't necessarily mean that's the way you have to do it, but I can tell you my story, and this is why my story works for me.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many different ways you can skin a cat. So it doesn't have to be the exact way. But if not everyone's at the point that they can just hire somebody, sometimes people do have to start in a place which, hey, I got to do it myself until I build my business
Right.
up into which I can
Right.
start hiring people. And whoever's listening to this right now, everyone's on different spectrums of different spectrums when it comes to being an entrepreneur. You might be in a position to hire somebody, you might not be, so you might need to do it yourself.
Well, and don't delay. Once you already know how that position is run, get out of that position. Your job is to get out of it as quickly as you possibly can. When we hired our first operations manager, this was probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. We hired our first operations manager, and we were paying her $40,000 a year. And this was before Strick and me, my partner and I. We weren't even taking any money from the company, and we were already paying somebody. So we both had our other gigs that we were doing at the same time. So we're like, thank God we didn't need the money from from TurnKey, our business, because we really needed someone that could grasp this business properly and get a hold of the systems and processes. We already knew how to run them. We wanted to hand it over to somebody. So yeah, that was a big gulp that first year that we paid somebody 40 grand. And the second year, it was much easier because now we were making that and more. And then the third year, much easier. And it's been that way for a very long time now, for basically 8 years that we've been making money from the business.
Let's talk about that, because you said you found somebody. Talk about going through the process of finding the right people to work in your business, because I think our businesses are like our baby.
Yep.
Right. When you first have it, like you want to do everything because it's so precious to you, but
yeah,
eventually you have to leverage out and have the people kind of come into the business. What's your thought process on bringing someone on board of one of your companies, and how do you determine who's the right fit or not?
It's a phrase called the zone of genius. If it is not in your zone of genius, Gay Hendricks wrote a book called The Big Leap, and he talks about in The Big Leap this being in your zone of genius. Your zone of genius is the thing that comes easily to you. It's your gift that comes to you, but it's difficult for the rest of the world. And if your zone of genius, if you ever find me in a spreadsheet, you'll know that I'm not in my zone of genius. Like if I'm in a spreadsheet or building a system or process, I'm not happy because I'm not doing what I want to do. It's counterproductive. Not only are you not doing it the right way, probably because I don't do spreadsheets the right way, but you're not happy at the same time. It's a double negative. So the way that you start to figure out what position should I be hiring out for first are the ones that you hate doing, the ones that don't come easiest to you. And once we realize that if we stay in our zone of genius, not only do we work less hours, but we end up making more money. And that's the beauty of it. Look, I can work 15 at last year our podcast made close to $400,000 in business. So for us, I spent all of my time speaking to people, having a good relationship, building the relationship, pre-qualifying and selling those people into services, whether it's an audience member or a guest sitting in our guest seat. So for me, that was my zone of genius. If I got off of that call and then I started to, okay, I better edit this episode so it can get out soon, that would be a horrible use of my time.
Yes.
So working on social media posts, I hate social media, so that would be bad. Unless it's my Ford Mustang or my classic Ford pickup truck Facebook groups, I don't want to be in social media promoting. So social media was bad. If I'm doing timesheets for our team, that's bad. If I'm sending out an email campaign to my list, that's bad. I have people surrounding me that do all of that stuff. It allows me to work 15 to 20 hours a week, make a very healthy living doing it, and not worry about those extra things, those other things, because I have people that are in a position to do that. And just to take it to the next level, not only is that how I handle my world, my responsibilities, but we ensure every team member, if you don't like doing what you're doing, let us know. We won't fire you. We're going to move you to another position within the company. we want you to stay here because we love our team members. Have some of them have been with us for 7 and 8 years. I've never met 90% of them, so it's great. It's great that they love doing what they do and they're not afraid to say, hey, I'm not loving this guest outreach thing, but I really would like to do show notes, or I don't like the show notes thing. Could you put me in video editing? I'll learn how to do that. I'm like, okay, great. Now we built it's harder to build the relationship than do the task. So let's work. We've got the relationship already built. We trust them. We love them. Let's give them a task that they really love to do. So for me, that's how I've handled my entire business growth, my opportunity here with TurnKey.
That's beautiful. Now you've done hundreds of interviews with entrepreneurs. So what's a common trait you see among successful entrepreneurs?
I would say that coming back to what we just talked about, them wanting to do everything, they want to micromanage, because as you were kind of alluding to, which I was about to say before, but I forgot the comment, is that we all think that no one can do it as good as we can do it. Mm-hmm. And you have to give that up. You have to give that up because you could be right, but you also could work yourself 100 hours a week. Editing isn't my thing. Could I edit? Yeah. Am I a good editor? I can edit. Am I better than our editors? I don't know. I might be as good as some of our editors, but it's something I hate doing. So why the hell would I want to do it? So entrepreneurs want to micromanage. They want to do it all because no one can do it better than them. Giving up, delegating responsibility, deleting some of the tasks. Those are the things that I would say are the common attributes that most entrepreneurs have.
Okay.
It's their baby. It's their baby. Like you said before, they love it. So why would they want to do anything other than that?
Absolutely. You ready for some rapid fire questions?
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah. I'm really a horrible thinker. As quick
20 seconds or less, brother. You got to answer these questions.
Okay. I'm going to try.
They're not that difficult though. Not that difficult. All right.
Okay. I'm ready.
Let me know when you're ready. All right. Let's get
I'm
it.
ready. I'm ready.
All right. Favorite book you've ever read?
Oh, that is Who Moved My Cheese, Spencer Johnson.
Okay. If you could interview anyone, any person in history, who would it be?
My dad.
Okay.
Who is no longer living. He died in 96, but I would love to be able to interview him again.
My condolences. What is one business lesson that took you way too long to learn?
There is no correlation between working hard and success.
Ooh, I like that. What superpower would you have if you could have one?
Invisibility. I want to be able to hear what's going on behind my back. Sneak into the room and listen what it takes to read minds also. Can I have two?
What's one podcast or creator you think people should be paying more attention to?
Geez, I don't know. I hang out more on the liberal side than I do on the conservative side. So I always encourage people to listen to The Daily. I just think it's a great podcast. It's filled with great news and information, but I'm not being political. That's just where I am.
All right, so nothing wrong with it. All right, awesome. And if someone wants to start a podcast tomorrow, what's one piece of advice you give them immediately?
Geez, give yourself plenty of time, plenty of runway to be successful. The challenge is that everybody wants success and they want it now. And yes, success could come if you're patient, but it will not come tomorrow. I don't ever want anybody to be pressured by the dollars that they're investing in podcasting because they need the money out of podcasting now in order to be, to continue it.
Okay, absolutely. And then we're doing rapid fire questions. This is just the last question I'm gonna have. Well, not the very last one.
That's all right. I like this. I'm having fun. Let's keep the conversation going. I want to be your longest episode. How do we do that?
Man, if I didn't have to go train my wife at the gym here shortly,
all right.
We definitely would. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
This don't gotta be only time you're here. Like I'm gonna want to have you come back.
Nice.
If you're open to it.
Hey, and I also want to. I didn't ask you this at the beginning. We'll talk about this later too. I'd love to be able to. I'm recording this. I want to play this to my community too, because this is some good stuff that you got going on here.
Absolutely. Please do.
Okay. All right. Got it.
Please do. All right. So, where do you see podcasting evolve over the next 5 to 10 years, especially with AI, video, and changing media platforms?
Well, things get so much easier nowadays with AI, not just in the post-production side, but actually in the content creation side. You can create a really cool outline for how you're going to make your point and bring your conversation full circle with every interview. And AI really does help with your research when you're putting a guest intro together, when you're putting bullet points together for talking points, exact questions. So AI technology is really really hammering home some great innovations for us in the podcasting space. Some editors, producers, distributors are afraid of it because they think it's going to take away their job. I don't know. It's still human element that's involved. And you know what? If they take away my job, so I'll retire. It's okay too.
This is true. This is true. Okay, awesome. Now, first of all, this has been a fire episode. If anyone wanted to be able to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you?
They can just reach out to me directly, Doug at turnkeypodcast.com.
Okay. Any social medias or anything like that you want to shout out?
Well, let's use my old DJ handle on Instagram. It's at DJ Doug. That's my Instagram. I got that one. They can also go to at Turnkey Podcast or look us up on Facebook, just Turnkey Podcast.
Okay, perfect. Man, I appreciate you being on the show today. It was an honor to have you here, Doug. Thank you so much for being on, brother.
This is great, and you are the international intellectual. You are the hope dealer, and you are the money master, Tyler. Thank you for having me on.
Man, hey! I'm about thank you. I'm about to do my little outro right now.
I stepped on your outro. Sorry, man.
No, you're good. They know it, but I'm gonna do it again anyway. I appreciate y'all listening and watching today. Please remember, you're rocking with the neighborhood hope dealer, your community coach, your tenacious teacher out here in Texas, your international intellectual, aka your coach, your host, the money master, Tyler Osborne, and we're out. Peace.
Friday advice and Tuesday interviews with people far more interesting than they are. Fill up your week with the nice guys. Have fun storming the castle.